Sitting here with the guys of Mushroomhead. Could you please introduce yourself?
Oh, hey, man, how you doing? My name's Skinny, I'm the drummer.
Hey, this is JMann, vocals.
Okay, that's cool. The first thing I wondered, the band name. Could you give a short explanation of it?
Sure, it was one of those deals where we had the name before we had the band. It was one of those names that kind of, brought to mind a lot of different ideas and didn't pigeonhole it one way or another. A lot of bands, immediately when you hear their name, you can tell if they're going to be very heavy or very mellow or interesting. Mushroomhead everyone gets their own idea of what it is. A lot of people think it's a sex reference or a drug reference.
Which was the point, to confuse people, just to get people's interest, and just by, people jumping to one of those two conclusions, if not a third, just definitely made the name stick in people's heads, so.
Okay. Because mushroom is maybe mellow and head is maybe the hard edge, or?
It could be that, if that's how you want to take it.
Okay.
That was the point of it, to have everyone have their kind of own take on it, to make it something that could change or that could be perceived differently,
Right.
That way, it means something different to everyone. And by doing so, we think it keeps it fresh in people's minds.
It is one word, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, people get it wrong all the time.
You're from Cleveland. How's the scene there, actually?
The scene there has always been really strong, especially for like heavy or aggressive music, like really strong heavy metal hardcore scene. And I think a lot of that has to do with it's very blue collar, very working class. So a lot of the industry was based on the auto industry and on the steel industry.
It's Detroit.
Right. Yeah, just like a Detroit type thing. And just like Detroit, a lot of those industries have shut down. So over the last 15 or 20 years, there's been it's been a very middle class, working class, place. So there's a lot of struggles involved. So the music is very aggressive, as a release, I suppose.
A release for the people, so they have to work from 9 to 5.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's been some great bands. And actually, what's great right now is a lot of the bands are starting to get national recognition, and they're coming out of there. Like, there's a band called Chimera, a band called Switch, there's a band called Keelhaul that's friends with us. They're here tonight. Ringworm, they're all signing with, either independent labels or major labels. And for the first time, there's 5 or 6 bands in Cleveland with record deals that are touring internationally, as to where in the past, a lot of it was just nose to the grindstone in town, And I think in a weird sense, some of the bands maybe felt like some of those auto workers or steel workers did, like there was just no way out. And the bands are starting to get out.
Integrity?
Yeah, Integrity, yes, absolutely. Good friends of ours. We actually worked on one of the albums with them, Integrity 2000, the record on Victory.
3 of us.
3 of the members of this band, of Mushroomhead, worked on.
Okay, it's just hardcore, straight hardcore.
Yeah, but it's getting back to that whole mindset to where, you need that release because, half the time it's raining or snowing or it's a blizzard or you can't find work. It's one of those places, where it's just survival,
Are there some of the clubs, like in New York, you got where the Ramones played, CG? Yeah. Is there some kind of clubs?
There's a lot of clubs that are pretty well established in Cleveland that have been around for a while. One is Peabody's, and they handle a lot of more of the punk rock, hardcore, and some of the metal, smaller shows.
600 seaters.
Yeah, and then the Cleveland Agora as well is another place that brings in a lot of cool bands. A lot of metal bands, a lot of different stuff.
We're like a 2,500 seat room.
Yeah.
Okay.
So between the 2 clubs, and both have existed our entire careers.
Yep.
So we've known them since we were little. So they're kind of staples in the music scene there.
Okay. How did that go? Because you've been around for
10 years.
10 years. You got 4 or 5 CDs going. 4, I guess.
Well, there's 3
in a remix.
3 full lengths and a remix. And then basically what this national or international record is basically a compilation of the 3 albums we put out. Basically what we consider the best songs off the records.
Okay. So how did that go at that time? Because you did play the local clubs and then you go to another state, or how is it?
Actually, it's always really gone really well. This band was one of those bands that immediately got attention. Immediately, people responded to it. Our first show was just at a regular old club in Cleveland, and 3 days later, we were playing in front of 2,000 people at the Cleveland Agora with Guar. So it was one of those things where immediate, and it kind of began as a side project, but it was pretty evident early on that it was going to be be the focal point. Like, just by the attention it grabbed automatically and the response that people had to it. So we've always been very encouraged by the fans and the public to keep moving on. But early on, we had a very independent state of mind and really wanted to control most of it ourselves, because we weren't very trusting in the music business or industry. So we learned how to do a lot of it early on by ourselves, recording it ourselves.
Do it yourself.
He does the mixing, he does the mastering, doing our own T-shirts, booking our own shows, everything like that, you know. And it was great, and that's what we did for 10 years, because that's how we wanted to do it. But then it kind of finally reaches a point to where if you're going to continue, you have to go to that next level. And it just, the responsibilities got too great on the members of the bands, and it was pulling away from the creativity of the band. So we wanted to kind of, you know, have someone else take a little of the responsibility, some of the heat, maybe a little bit of the work, so we can put more time into the music.
In America, you have the big festivals like Ozfest, Pledge of Allegiance, and eventually you played at that kind of festivals. Or?
Well, this year we're playing the Ozfest.
It's just our
first time.
We are playing. Yeah, we up to this point we haven't played there yet. We haven't played any type festival like that. Actually, our first national tour, somewhat national tour in the States, was last summer, and that was with Wasp. It was our very first tour, and it was kind of like boot camp, you know. We got out there with a rock and roll veteran, and, you know, learned how the road works. And it was education.
Did the public respond to your kind?
Oh, they responded to us great. At the time, we were on an independent label, you know, so we didn't really have the distribution or the push behind our band, so they weren't really aware of us when they went to the shows, a lot of the people, but I think they walked away, you know, inspired or liking it, enjoying it.
The mixing and mastering, do you use Pro Tools or that kind of thing?
You know, up until the Universal, we had never used Pro Tools. So it was all, you know, standard 2-inch tape, and 1-inch tape. We synced both machines together. But when we remixed it with Toby Wright, he ran everything through Pro Tools. Still used 2-inch tape and dumped it back. But yeah, that was my first real Pro Tools experience, and you know, we're currently working on building a system right now. So we're gonna have our own.
Because it's great for your music, you got all that.
Oh yeah, we'll be able to, you know, work on and tweak stuff however we want it, and that's, you know, the idea of we've always had as far as keeping everything in house and doing it ourselves. It's just, you know, the next tool that we needed. So on the next album, like I said, we're building the Pro Tools thing right now. So yeah, it'll be used next time. But we're still, you know, very analog. We record the tape and, you know, send you know, everything into Pro Tools for, you know, the polishing.
Because some analog recordings have also its own character, right?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes, yeah, that's the idea. Plus, we've been on 2-inch tape for so long, we'll never get off it. We'll never go straight to disc. Yeah, we'll never go straight to disc.
You talked about the next album. Do you write some material on the road, or how?
We've been working on a lot of material in the works right now.
We actually have a brand new song that we just recorded, which is on the Scorpion King soundtrack, which I'm not sure has been released over here yet. But yeah, we have a song on that, and that's brand new. And when we went and recorded that, we recorded a couple other things as well. And then once again, we still have a large back catalog from our independent albums, you know, and there's a lot of new material that we've been working on. So
how does that go with 8 guys or with 8 guys? So I wondered, is there some kind of core in the band?
Skinny is basically the core of the band. Not only does he decide a lot when it comes to the mixing and mastering, but also visually comes up with a lot of concepts. And then also by being the drummer, that is also a foundation, musically the foundation. So, you know, he's definitely the guidance or support system.
More the arranger of the things once it all gets put down. But there's really never an order. Sometimes a sample will spark an idea. Sometimes a keyboard pad and the actual tone itself will spark an idea. Or Schmatz, our keyboard player, will have a riff and he'll start playing, and I'll have him, you know, repeat it and ask someone else to go over top. And
okay,
yeah, more of what I do is compose and arrange than write. Really, yeah, I mean, you boil it down, because I'm really a drummer. So
yeah.
At the end of the day, he's the guy that knows what Mushroomhead's supposed to sound like.
What kind of influences
are wide and very different. Like getting back to having 8 guys, you've got 8 guys that basically listen to different music, come from different cultural backgrounds. So it kind of brings a lot to the table. You know, it's like being a chef and just having all these ingredients at your disposal and just deciding how you want to season it. You know.
Okay. 8 guys on tour. How does that go?
It usually goes really well.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's so many of us. You don't really get sick of any one individual person. You know, you can spend your day with
every day.
Absolutely,
yeah.
You can spend
And at the same time, the band has been together so long; it's a family. So you know, you will have little squabbles and fights, but you know, in the long run, everyone truly cares about each other, and you know, you get through things like that.
Can you give some ideas of that new CD? Is it kind of different from material from XX, or it's
to some degree, you know, it not any more than each song is different from itself. It'll very much be Mushroomhead, just like a continuation of where XX left off.
Okay.
I mean, you know, we're always going to sound like us just because we don't know anything else.
Yeah, okay. Maybe you have the past few years some influences that you thought from some groups put new stuff to it or new.
You know, there's just so, like, getting back to 8 guys once again. There's so many influences coming in. I'll bring like the hardcore gabber type techno ideas to the, you know, the real fucking abrasive 180 beats a minute and up type of stuff, and then a keyboard player will bring in something very surreal and soft like piano or some strings.
Okay.
And then, you know, our singers will loop something, you know, as far as like get something going and try to get a direction or a more of a vibe and a personality to what we're already doing. So you know, that's basically what I try to bring to the mix. But as far as newer bands or recent things that have influenced the band, I know that we were listening to that Mindless Self-Indulgence for the one tour quite heavy. And if you're familiar with those guys, they're very, very quick and very erratic, and it's good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
You listen to techno, I hear.
Yes, there's a lot of techno still.
It's originally from Detroit.
A lot of old stuff. You know, that's what I've heard. But everything we always bought, you're going back to like 91, 92, 93, in that area, was always into like all of the Nightmare in Rotterdam stuff, the first stuff that came out, like 1 through 5, and even some of the early Thunderdome, anything on the Roughneck records for, you know, the first 3,
cool.
4, 5 releases. What, Sigma 909, I believe. There was another one we were into.
That's cool. We call it Gabber here.
Yeah, okay.
Gabber.
Yeah. Fucking hard, brutal. Yeah, we love it, man.
In Holland, it was a big culture. It's now a little bit
slowed down a little bit. More of the metal festivals kind of blending together. That's what we try to do, is blend the hardcore techno with what we do, the hardcore gabber shit, you know. And we always, like at home, we end our shows with a mixed set of fucking just brutal hardcore, and the kids get up and dance, and the girls take their clothes off, and it's you know, it's become a ritual but we don't do it here because we're not doing any of our own shows. But when we come back to headline, we will do it.
Okay, that's
cool. So we'll be bringing back the gabber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Some roundup. What are the next plans?
Well, there's a lot more touring involved. Hopefully we'll make it back over here before the end of the year, maybe possibly even doing something on our own. We have the Ozfest in the States, and right when we go home, we do a bunch of dates with Seven Dust.
Okay.
So I'm really looking forward to that. Then after the fall, we're going to start working on the new record.
Oh, that's good.
And go in the studio, maybe a couple months of recording, see what happens.
Okay, so maybe next year at this time there is a new record coming.
That's the idea.
Okay. And maybe Ozfest.
I'm hoping.
Okay.
If this record does well, you know, things pick up and everybody spreads the word, and we get to do more things like this interview, you know. Fuck yeah, we really appreciate it, man.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, man. Definitely. Thank you. Awesome.